Thank you.
What's that?
6:30, let's call the meeting to order and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Geisler. Housechild.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Mayor Boucher.
Here. Announcements. Do any counselors have announcements this evening? No. I've got some procedural things to go over just before we get started. We have a lot more people here than we usually have. We have different opportunities for public input to the council meeting. We will have one soon after communications that's for general public input for things that are not on the agenda. So if there's an item that's not on the agenda that you're here to speak about, that's the time to get up and speak. If it's something that's on the agenda, we will have a period for public discussion during that time. Once the motion is made and we move forward, after the council has a chance to ask questions of staff, then there will be a time for public input. During public input, we ask that you limit your time to 3 minutes per person. If there's anything beyond the 3 minutes, you can submit anything to the city clerk in writing during the meeting. We will have, I'm guessing some people are here from the Johnson Road area. We'll have 2 separate items on our agenda for that. One is for the planned unit development and the other is for the plat. So so that you know that to tailor your public input. If you want to talk about the plat, speak during the plat. If you want to talk about the planned unit development. But if you talk about one during the other, we're not going to shut you off. It's just, we just have that clarification between the 2 motions. But each motion on the agenda will have a period for public discussion. Mr. Mulder, would you address communications?
We have a number of items listed on your agenda that were included in your packet. Also included in your packet was just a list of all the communications that we received. Some of them we did not necessarily include, but if you want those, we can get a copy of those. In some cases, we did receive emails after the agenda deadline on Wednesday. So there were a couple of other emails that are not listed here that have been forwarded to all the city council members. And those will get logged and they will be on the list at the next meeting.
Thank you. We have no presentations by department heads at this time. Next, we will move to item 8, public discussion. This is a time for individuals to address the council about any item not on the agenda. We ask that you limit your time to 3 minutes per person. I'm going to first call for people that are in chambers to speak. And then after that is exhausted, I will ask for people that are present at the online meeting to speak. Is there anyone in chambers that wishes to address the council about general items at this time? If so, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. Second call for anyone in chambers to address the council about general items that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone present at the online meeting that wishes to address the council about something that's not on the agenda?
And if anyone in the online meeting would like to share anything, please use the hand raise function and I'll call on you.
If anyone on the online meeting wishes to address the council about something that's not on the agenda, please state your name and address for the record. With that, agenda. What's causing that, Joe?
I think I fixed it. We just had an unmuted member.
Thank you. Do we have a motion from council for the consent agenda?
Motion to approve?
Motion by Councillor Nelson, second by Councillor Geisler. Roll call, please.
Counselor Housechild.
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Geisler,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. We have no motions under item 10 or ordinances under 11. Number 12, resolutions. Resolution 2021-76. Resolution consenting to an assignment of the special use permit granted to David Colquist and amending resolution number 2005-95. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Counselor Geisler, second by Counselor Housechild. Mr. Mulder?
I don't know, maybe either Eric or the city attorney could address this issue.
Mr. Johnson?
Great, thank you very much. This evening before us is a request to amend an existing special use permit that was approved back in 2005 for the Golden Oaks Assisted Living facility. As part of that special use permit, there was a stipulation that the special use permit could not be assigned to any other property or person without the consent of the city council. This facility has been sold in the past few months here, and the new person who is going to operate it as it is, as an existing 30-bed assisted living facility, is requesting that transfer of the special use permit. So that is one item that's in front of us as part of this. Other item associated with this is the basically amending of that 2005 ordinance to strike that language stating that it requires a city council action to assign or future ownership that way. So that allow if this facility is ever sold in the future, it would not need the city council approval, that the special use permit would run with the property, which is something that we typically see. And then lastly, when this property was came before council back in 2005, this was a much larger parcel. It encompassed a home that was located on the north portion of that. After that special use permit was approved at that time, the lot was split. So that property with the existing home on it had its own parcel ID number. The new Golden Oaks facility at that time had it separate. The problem is that special use permit runs with both properties. So we're looking to amend that special use permit as well to eliminate that existing single family home from that special use permit. What that'll do is that will clean up any title research that needs to be done should that property sell in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Overham, do you have any comment on this?
I have nothing further to add.
Any questions or comments from council?
No.
Is there anyone from the public in the meeting, in the chambers, that wishes to address this item? If so, please step forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone present in chambers that wishes to comment on this item? Is there anyone attending the online meeting that wishes to comment on resolution 2021-76?
Again, please use your raise hand function if you're interested in participating regarding this resolution.
If there's anyone present in the online meeting that wishes to comment on this resolution, please state your name and address for the record. With no public comment, we will move to a roll call.
Counselor Nelson,
Aye.
Geisler,
Aye.
Housechild,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2021-77. Resolution authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk to execute and deliver development agreement with Shane W. Stokey. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Counselor Nelson, second by Counselor Geisler. Mr. Mulder, do we want Mr. Johnson to comment on this?
Yes.
Housechild on second.
So I'm sorry. That's a H, not a G.
Not a G's though.
Mr. Johnson.
Great, thank you again, Mr. Mayor. This is for a planned unit development that was approved back in 2020. This encompassed 9 lots and a 45-acre property. This is an example of a rural subdivision that was approved at that time. As part of the approval, it required that the developer enter into a development agreement with the city, which outlines their responsibility for the construction of the roads as well as the stormwater associated with this property. As I mentioned, this is a rural subdivision. This will be well and septic on each one of these properties. That'll be the responsibility of each property owner for that. This development agreement encompasses the rural section roadway, which will be paved, as well as the stormwater ponds associated with this. There will be a requirement of a letter of credit in the amount of $475,000, which will cover the amount up to 125% potential costs associated with this work should the developer default in any reason. That a letter of credit allows then the city to sign off on the plat and would allow the developer to start selling lots at that point. In addition, the developer will be required to pay any outstanding attorney or city engineer fees associated with the review of this project. That is also outlined in the development agreement.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from council?
Mr. Mayor, I have one question regarding the stormwater ponds that you talked about. Are they built on private property or where will those be built?
They're on private properties, but there'll be an easement associated with each one, and the city will have access to those.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? Is there anyone present in chambers that wishes to comment on resolution 2021-77? If anyone in chambers wishes to comment on this resolution, please step forward to the podium and state your name and address. Is there anyone present at the online meeting that wishes to comment on this? If so, please state your name and address. Is there anyone on the online meeting that wishes to comment on resolution 2021-77? With no public comment, I'd ask for a roll call.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Housechild,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2021-78, resolution approving preliminary planned unit development for the Keene Creek Trail subdivision development. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Geisler, second by Counselor Housechild. Mr. Mulder, would you like Mr. Johnson to address this again?
He's on a roll.
He's getting all the work tonight. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I'll try not to monopolize this meeting this evening. What we have before us, it's two items. One will be the preliminary planned unit development, and then afterwards will be the preliminary plat associated with that. What there is, and maybe ask Mr. Wickland to get the location map up associated with this if he could. But while he's doing that, this proposal consists of three distinct pieces of property. One is a 33-acre piece of land. That's the large red portion that you see on the site. That is the development or developer-owned property. The next is the 2.5-acre outlot A, which is just to the north and east of that. That is the outlot A, which was originally created as part of the 1995 Valley View Division plat. And then lastly, in the blue is the city right-of-way. That's a 1-acre Carlson Road right-of-way that once again was platted in 1995 to provide access to that outlot and any future development in this area. What the developer is proposing is a 29-lot combination of single-family homes and 8 twin home lots. There'll be a total of 21 single-family lots and 8 twin home lots. Those will be 4 buildings for a total of 8 units total. The single-family lots range in size from 16,000 to 58,000 square feet in size, with the twin home lots being from 12,000 to 20,000 square feet in size. Regarding the zoning on the site, this is an R3 zone property. A planned unit development is allowed in any zoning district throughout the city. The developer is proposing setbacks that either meet or are similar to the existing underlying R3. The front yard setback is at 50 feet and the rear yard setback is at 40, which both meet the underlying R3. The side yard setback, they're requesting to have, instead of a 25-foot aggregate, to a 20-foot aggregate. We've done this in other developments throughout the city. I'd like to point out that the overall density on this property is less than 1 unit per acre. The underlying R3 zoning allows up to 2 units per acre. So there's 29 lots on 33 acres. So this is essentially half as dense that could be allowed under an R3 zoning. The developer has worked quite a bit with MSA Professionals as their engineer. They have done preliminary grading, utility, and stormwater plans for this property. The final construction plans would happen at the time of a final PUD and plat approval, should that go forward. There are 6 stormwater ponds that are located throughout the site, and the city would eventually own and maintain those stormwater ponds. Mr. Wickland, if you could advance the slide, please. What we have right here is this the preliminary site layout. You can see there's taking access off of Morris Thomas Road. That's approximately 200 to 300 feet east of Okerstrom Road. Progresses up to the north where it turns at a 90-degree angle and then intersects a long cul-de-sac that's located on the south, and then eventually hooks into that existing right-of-way on Carlson Road, once again, part of that Valley View Division plat. That roadway associated with that would be a 28-foot wide curb and gutter. It would be a paved bituminous surface, and there will be sidewalk on one side of the property. That sidewalk will continue throughout the extent of this property, linking Morris Thomas eventually to Johnson Road by way of Carlson there. In addition to that, there is the opportunity to connect this sidewalk system to a future trail that is part of the city's overall Munger Trail spur that's currently being worked on. Right now, there's an existing section south of Morris Thomas, which leads to Keene Creek Park. This future trail would happen on the west side of this property, progress throughout the area. Joe, if you'd like to go to the next slide, please. It's essentially located in this green area that you see on the bottom portion of their paper, that trail would go through there and then eventually continue to the north. Joe, one more slide, please. At that point, that trail system would intersect an existing 20-foot easement that exists on the west side of the existing Valley View Division. When this property was platted back in '95, there's an existing 20-foot trail easement associated with that. So eventually there will be a trail that will connect all the way from Keene Creek Park leading to the north with the ability to get up to the Wellness Center at a future time that way. But at least in the near future, that trail system could get you from the intersection of Stebner Road and Stebner Park all the way down to Keene Creek Park. So residents not only in the proposed new subdivision, but also residents within this existing subdivision would have the ability to access this trail system off-road and be able to use that for a 10-foot wide standpoint. As I had mentioned, the access is planned on 2 different points. Joe, if you roll it back 2 slides, please. Actually, well, that's fine. Go one. Thank you. That's a little cleaner graphic right there. So what this shows is an aerial associated with the area. It has the blue is a proposed roadway system for this. Once again, connecting into Morris Thomas just to the east of Okerstrom Road, turning eventually to the north and east where it intersects that roadway or the existing right-of-way associated with Carlson Road at that point, and then into Johnson. As you can see, this links that whole system associated with this neighborhood, not only from existing standpoint, but a future roadway. City staff has reached out to different professionals within our office here, the chief of police, the fire marshal, city engineer, as well as public works director, and they all concur with the benefit of 2 ins and outs into a development that way. Not only from a life safety standpoint, should be one of the entrances is blocked, whether it be a utility break, emergency, whatever it may be, there's always a secondary access into this property that way. Also from a public works standpoint, it allows for continual maintenance as they move throughout the system. As they're plowing Johnson Road, the ability to enter in and Carlson and then go on Morris Thomas or the reverse route that way. So it's an efficient system that way, not only from a public safety standpoint, but also from the public works standpoint also. Joe, roll it back 1 slide, please. Actually, 1 more. Thank you. As part of this development, there's going to be the proposed land swap. As I mentioned earlier, the city owns a 2.5-acre outlot that was created back in '95 for that Valley View Division. What is being proposed is that the city swaps that 2.5 acres of land that's outlined in the red in this map that you see for the 12.5 acres that's shown in green on this map right here. What that does, it provides a number of different benefits. It protects Keene Creek, protection of existing wetlands in that area. Stormwater ponds will be located with this large green area, so it's the ability for the city to access those and maintain and own those in the future. It also provides that land, as I'd mentioned, for access for that Munger Trail spur as it moves from the north to the south to the north that way. This works out quite well, once again, as I mentioned, from the 2 points of egress and ingress into that development. And then it takes an existing outlet that had been envisioned back in '95 for future development, and it turns it into ability to be used as part of this plat that way. I'd like to point one more thing out, just to help people out. The yellow shown on here, those are the proposed single-family lots. Those back onto the existing single-family lots of Johnson. And then the blue and the interior, that's where the proposed twin homes would be. So those twin homes are located in the interior of the property, not on the exteriors that way. The rationale that this is a planned unit development before us is that 17 of the 21 single-family homes are less than 1/2 acre in size. They're approximately about a third of an acre in size that way on the minimum. So the planned unit development allows for the lots to be smaller than the 1/2 acre. It also allows for the having of twin homes in this. So it's a mixed type of housing development for the different types of homes associated with it. So that's the rationale why this is a planned unit development before us this evening.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from council?
I have one question. You had mentioned that it was reviewed by the chief of police, fire marshal, public utilities, and city engineer. I saw the correspondence from the chief of police in our packet. Was there correspondence from the fire chief?
Yes, it came in late yesterday. I do have an email that we can include in the next packet for that.
Okay. Could you just summarize what that said?
Yes, that it is their preference that they have multiple means of ingress and egress for a property for their life safety standpoint.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council?
Yeah, I have one. So you talked a lot about the rationale for the Carlson Road, given the easement or the right of way there. Can you talk a little bit about connections, a second connection on Morris Thomas and or a connection on Okerstrom and what the rationale was there from different stakeholder standpoint?
Sure. The city engineer and myself met with Vic Lund, who's the county traffic engineer associated with this. Morris Thomas is a county roadway that the county needs to be engaged on should there be an access for this. Initially, what the county is trying to avoid is having multiple offsetting driveways or roadways associated on Morris Thomas. They were comfortable with this one that it ties down right there in the fact that it really lessens the impact onto existing wetlands, and a second ingress onto Morris Thomas would create too many traffic concerns from their standpoint, having two driveways too close together in a very narrow stretch of intersection that way. Staff also looked at potential of connecting on Okerstrom Road. That route, if it would be pursued, there's a tremendous amount of wetland that would need to be crossed to get over to Okerstrom Road. Furthermore, right now, Okerstrom as it exists is basically a substandard rural section that we have. It is for the most part gravel and native soil. There's not really a good subbase with it. So if you start introducing a brand new subdivision onto a substandard gravel road, there are potentials for issues in the future just with the quicker breakdown of that gravel section that way.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Not at this time. They covered mine
Okay.
as well for the moment.
We're about to open this up for public discussion. Each person is going to have roughly 3 minutes to speak. If there's two of you together, you'd get 3 minutes apiece. You'd stand up one at a time. But what I want to point out before we get started is with Robert's Rules of Order, it does not facilitate a give and take question and answer between the podium and the council. Consider basically you're speaking to the council as testimony. And if there are questions as part of that, the council and I will attempt to write those questions down and direct those to staff when public discussion is complete. So we're not going to ignore any questions from the podium. It's just that a exchange cuts into your 3 minutes and the time of others, and it doesn't facilitate itself with Robert's Rules of Order. So if anyone present in the chamber wishes to comment on Resolution 2021-78, the planned unit development, please step forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Joe's going to make sure the mic's on.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councilors. My name is Lisa Smith. I live at 3761 Johnson Road. On behalf of all residents of Johnson Road and Portland Road, 100% of whom signed a petition to not allow the proposed Carlson Road extension, I'm asking you to vote no on the proposal of Keene Creek Trail subdivision as it is being submitted to you this evening. I hope that you've all read the email that was sent to you by Bart Smith and me. That email details many reasons and leaves many of our questions for this proposed road unsatisfactorily answered. The fact that reworking a proposal will take a bit more time and require more creative thought should not be a deterrent to doing what is right from a planning perspective on behalf of all current and future citizens involved. The St. Louis County Road Development Chart, which was sent to you, clearly shows that Johnson and Portland roads are not constructed to handle the level of traffic that is expected, period. Business gains and interests in city government should never outweigh the safety of the city's residents, period. The development planners involved with this project should have done their homework prior to the reconstruction of Johnson and Portland roads. They also should never have allowed the communication with the developer to reach this point, as traffic from the proposed 39 units is clearly beyond what the Johnson and Portland roads can safely handle. Outlot A, as it stands, was set up to handle 1 to 2 single-family units, not the 39 that are being proposed. Saying that the Carlson Road extension was envisioned for a larger development was simply not factual. If the Carlson Road extension had been envisioned for a larger development, then the city planners failed in their obligation to construct Johnson and Portland roads properly, rather than 8 feet too narrow. By allowing construction of the Carlson Road as it's proposed, you're endangering our lives and infringing upon our right to enjoy our neighborhood. We cannot and will not be silent about this. The argument of 2 ingress and egress points does not stand up when it applies to the city of Hermantown. The proof of this is in looking at the newest development on Patriot Drive or Patriot Lane, which is closest to the Johnson and Portland Road homes. Many other developments which were named in our email to you also did not provide that element. We implore you to do the right thing by voting no to this proposal and sending it back to the drawing board. We all want business and our city to succeed, but not when it hurts its current and longtime tax-paying citizens in the process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to address the council at this time? If so, please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Dean Bjorlin, and I live at 3750 Johnson Road. And I've had the privilege of growing up at that home, and then later in my life buying that home. And now, as of 3 weeks ago, I've moved back and I'm retiring in that home. And one of the things I've noticed since moving back, I've also had the privilege of paying my assessments for water, sewer, blacktop, and now the second blacktop, which are great improvements, you know, no complaints there. And one of the things I've noticed in my 3 weeks back is that the road is narrow, and there are a lot of people that enjoy walking on our road. And even when 2 cars cross, if there's walkers there, it's like you got to stop and be very careful, very aware. And my concern with the Carlson Road and the extra traffic is just the safety and losing the walkers. There's walkers of all ages, old people like myself, which I've never publicly said I was old before. There's a lot of moms pushing the strollers. Thank you. All I could think of was wheelchairs. That wasn't right. So my concern would be the safety and just losing the, if you want to say, the atmosphere. So I personally would not see this as a good improvement to our road and area. So I would encourage you to vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to speak to the council? Please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Tony Marino. I live at 3760 Johnson Road. I am the originator of the petition that was signed by 100% of residents on Johnson and Portland roads. The copy that was sent initially was missing one signature. In fact, it was Dean Bjorlin's. So I have the original copy here with all the signatures.
Thank you.
100%. Can't beat that. It shows a lot of unity in our neighborhood that the Johnson Road is a neighborhood that we use it as a place to live, but also a place to walk, to recreate. We got kids out there, we're walking. It's a kind of a road that you drive down the center of the road because it's narrow. The only time you drive in the right-hand lane is if there's oncoming traffic or people. It was brought up tonight about putting a road down to Okerstrom. And the reason for Okerstrom not being a choice is because it's a substandard road. Johnson Road is a substandard road for the additional traffic that this development is going to put in there. I'm not here against the development, even though I think we're trying to put 10 pounds of manure in a 5-pound bag. But this road is about doing the same thing to the Johnson Road. It's putting 10 pounds of manure on a 5-pound road. It was also stated tonight about the lot size per acre, you know, with the 34 or some acres and stuff. 12 acres is given back to the city. So the development is only going to be taken up about 20 some. I think that changes the math a little bit there. So that's something that should be reconsidered. And that's more towards the development and that it does to the corporate, to the road. It's already been stated that we've all paid our easements for the road to be repaired and improved, but yet there was no consideration taken in for connecting with the Carlson Road. That's a huge oversight in my opinion. Never should have happened. And lastly, I guess 100% of the people signed it. These are the people that live here in our neighborhood already. We vote for people here that represent us. We are the current residents and we should be considered over future residents. The St. Louis County travel patterns even show, and Lisa has that in her letter that you all had. Our road is 8 foot too narrow for the amount of traffic. We're already maxed out with the number of lots on the Johnson Road for what our road is designed for. Any additional traffic is just too much. So please vote against this Carlson Road extension.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to speak to the council at this time? If so, please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Jay Zierden, and my partners, the Weeds brothers and myself, are the developers of this property. It was insinuated earlier that, oh, my address is 4571 Martin Road. It was insinuated that earlier that we did not think through the process, that we rushed into this and we didn't do our due diligence as far as looking at possibilities. The fact is, this plat was done in 1995 with this easement put in for this purpose. And it was the city's direction that encouraged us to use that outlet. So the fact that we are just trying to put 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag is not true. We did due diligence, and we're just doing what the city has guided us to do in this development.
Thank you. Is there anyone present in chambers that wishes to speak to the council at this time? If so, please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Bart Smith, 3761 Johnson Road. Do not negatively impact the livability and safety of the Portland and Johnson Road families by creating the Carlson Road through road to the proposed Kings Creek Trail. Safety. We've talked about a lot about safety. Safety should always be the priority in design and constructing of all Hermantown developments. Has the city of Hermantown put current and past families at risk because they do not have 2 egress in their development? The Patriot Drive townhomes on Patriot Lane is a prime example. 1 ingress, 1 egress. Timber Ridge Properties on Westburg Road. This is a very large development neighborhood that could have been connected to Woodridge Drive and Terrace Circle very easily. This would have provided 3 development neighborhoods with 2 means of egress, ingress. The new development being constructed east of Stebner Road, off of Stebner Road, Dana Road, Berkeley Road, Linda Road, Mary Lane Drive, etc. across Hermantown. Fire safety. We know that Fire Hall 2 is located at 4900 Morris Thomas Road. The proposed Kings Creek Trail subdivision is 3,400 feet from this fire hall. Medical safety. Mayo Clinic ambulance service located at 4505 West Michigan Street. The proposed Kings Creek Trail subdivision is 3.9 miles or 8 minutes via Haynes Road and west on Morris Thomas. Police safety, the Hermantown Police Service located at 5111 Maple Grove Road. The proposed Kings Creek Trail subdivision is 3.9 miles or 8 minutes via Levake Road and east on Morris Thomas. Outlot A from the Planning and Zoning meeting. As part of the 1906 Valley View Division plot, the city created an outlot which was accessed by the way of the 66-foot right-of-way plotted that's Carlson Road. The outlot has been envisioned as future development of the original plot. The above statement is true, but the vision for Outlot A and the Carlson Road easement was to provide 1 to 2 single-family homes and a road to access it. This is the information that Lisa, my wife, and I were given back in 96, 97. How many were you in the positions you are now at Hermantown? Because we were working with the city of Hermantown back in 96, 97. The envision of the Carlson Road and outlot were to be part of a large future development. Why did the Hermantown, or city of Hermantown, rebuild the Portland Johnson Road with only 22 feet wide? Why are you putting the safety and livability of 2 neighborhoods at risk for the benefit of a new proposed Kings Creek Trail to subdivision? Hermantown's plan unit development must provide public benefits surrounding neighborhoods. Is it can provide that same benefit to the Johnson Portland Road residents? Options I feel that would benefit both neighborhoods only have 1 ingress egress to the proposed Kings Creek Trail. Single ingress egress neighborhoods provide increased livability and safety every day. We experienced this when we built our first home in a cul-de-sac in the Twin Cities. We also saw this recently when Lisa and I drove down Patriot Lane with a brand new SUV and the double takes the citizens or the people in that neighborhood gave us. I believe one of them even got a picture of our car. If 2 means of ingress or egress are absolutely needed, make both of them on Morris Thomas Road. This would match the design of the newer Kings Creek Court townhomes that are located just north on Hermantown Road. Thank you.
Sir, thank you. You're almost at 4 minutes. I just wanted to remind you. Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to speak to the council? If so, state your name and address for the record.
Jared Weeds, 1990 West Chubb Lake Road. The main thing I want to say is that this wasn't something that was forced through. I personally owned this property for 5 years and brought several proposals to the city. And with working with them, this was a big part of the plan they came up with. And we've kind of followed suit. We want to do something that is positive for the community. And I think, like, if I had to say anything, like, you know, we got through the planning commission and we went through, we're doing all the steps we need to do. We're out to do something good. Change is not good for everybody, but looking at this, like, we've worked with the city and we've went through the steps and they've guided us through this, and we spent dollars to get it to this point, you know, and bring this forward to you. So I think that needs to be realized. And 33 acres in Hermantown is going to be developed. That's just the fact, you know, otherwise it wouldn't have sat for sale for 6-8 months or 2 years or whatever. It's going to get developed. And our plan is good. And there are a lot of opinions and a lot of different opinions, but, you know, and I'm not going to point fingers at what people voted for when Johnson Road got fixed and now we're going to use it. But there are things that are coming into play now that were meant to meet some of Johnson Road's residents' concerns based on cost. And now they regret that. And we're trying to do the right thing and we will continue to, but our plan has been based on a recommendation from the city.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to speak to the council at this time? If so, state your name and address for the record. Sir, okay.
Mayor, City Council, Steve left the lot 4749 Portland Road. The last time I had the pleasure to stand before this council, Mayor, we talked about the redoing of Johnson Road, Portland Road, Alexander, and Carlson. And I thank you for that. It turned out wonderful. At that time, it was the worst streets in the whole city. At that time, we went before the council. The proposal was to make Johnson wider because we recognized it as a friendly, more downscale road that people use to walk their dogs, push strollers, and bicycles. The council agreed with that and made it narrower than the initial proposal from the city engineer. So I just want to keep that for you to remember that. And I hesitate to do this, but well, I understand the subdivision would bring more money into the city. And I don't fault the council for that. But when I was hearing the story about two means of ingress and egress, that kind of made sense to me, but now that I hear that that's not the case in many developments, that kind of throws out the window. But I would suggest that if you do approve the Carlson Road easement, that instead of making it the 25 foot or whatever is proposed, that you make it the same size existing Johnson Road to hopefully support slower traffic on the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, did you say your last name was Laflamme?
Lepola.
Lefela?
Lepola.
No.
LEPP.
Okay.
A-L-A. Yep.
LAPDALA.
Oh, and I live on the corner of Johnson and Morristown. And that new corner, although it looks unusual, well, it is unusual, but especially on the corner when cars are going two different directions, I've seen many, many close calls. So another consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to comment to council at this time? If so, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. Mr. Marino, do you have anything to add? You've already had over 3 minutes.
Yeah, I just wanted to expound a little bit on what Bart Smith said. I believe that this development is going to be, even without the Carlson Road, one of the safest developments in this city. 2/3 of a mile to the fire hall. The ambulance service comes up the Haynes Road to the corner of Morris Thomas Road. It's 1/3 of a mile to the entrance to the Morris Thomas Road from there. An occasional police call, if they're coming from the city hall here, they're not going to go around the Haynes Road and come in Portland, Johnson, Carlson, Keens Creek Court. They're going to come around Morris Thomas Road and they're going to come in. So without the Carlson Road, this is still going to be one of the safest because of its proximity to the ambulance and the fire department. There is no advantage to the Carlson Road for either of those departments. And I'd argue that those are the departments that would be called on the most often for any kind of an emergency.
Thank you. Anyone else in chambers that wishes to speak to the council at this time? If so, please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Georgianne Cabrera. I live at 3775 Johnson Road. I wasn't planning on speaking, but I want to just give you a little insight to what this road has been like. Our children, who are now 25 to 36 years old, grew up on that road. And a lot of them here too grew up, we had a lot of little kids in those times. They all went to Hermantown, of course. And this road was so safe that the kids could go up and down the road and not worry about cars coming from really Morris Thomas. It kind of was. And that is the kind of city of quality living why we moved to Hermantown, because you could do that. And you can't see that a lot today. And we want to maintain that because like right next door to us, we're kind of the grandparents between two right now. And I have 3 grandchildren that come and love this road. And I can let them go out on this road and not worry about it. And we have people next to us that have a brand new baby, and one of them wrote, and that's one of the reasons they came. And we have talked up this road for years, how blessed we felt and still do to have raised our children on this road and in this city. And I am not against development. I agree with what they're saying in that sense, but putting another access is going to completely change the whole beauty of what I would say rural living in Hermantown is all about. We're the city, but have a rural feel to it. Why would we want to ruin that by adding another road that truly is unnecessary? And I agree with what they're saying. So really, listen, I agree. If 100% of us signed this, we are getting younger families wanting to move in, and it's a great selling point to have them to go to say, this is what it was, and it still is, but it will not be. And additionally, the road that was put in last year is a lot shorter, or width-wise. The ditches are much deeper. And I guarantee you, we're going to see people going into the ditch in the winter if we have more traffic coming, because it's really close now as it is. So I see people on there with their strollers and everything, these mothers coming through and people walking dogs, and it's just a wonderful road. It's going to change. And I don't think for the better. So do you want a city of quality living, a road that with families that have been here for years and want to bring other families in as we do move out, although some people move back in? Do we want to maintain that? I think so. We look especially what's going on in our world today, we need this kind of living here. So I'm just going to plead with you to vote out the Carlson Road for that reason. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to speak to the council at this time? Please state your name and address for the record.
Janet Jansen, and I live on 3743 Johnson Road.
The last name again was?
Jansen.
Jansen.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I've heard that twice since the new road's been built. The school bus and the garbage truck have not been able to pass each other on that curb because they come about the same time. Okay, can you imagine a fire truck coming down that curb and meeting something, or having icy roads and people going off the ditch? It's a very narrow curb. I don't think for the safety, it's not good. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to address the council on this matter? Hearing none, we will move to our online participants. Well, we have one more person in chambers that wants to speak. Please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Mr. Mayor, while he's stepping up, if there are folks in the online who do want to speak, if they want to use the hand raise function now, I'll pull them up as they go. Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
My name is Kevin O'Brien. I live on 3759 Alexander Road. My wife and I have lived there for 30 years. We're now retired. In the last year since the road was completed, I've seen more pedestrians, bicycles, skateboards, scooters than I ever have in 30 years. It's not safe to put more traffic on these roads. They're not designed to handle it. It's a high density neighborhood as it is, one of them also in the whole city. Last week, I happened to walk out in the yard and I noticed a little girl, very small girl, laying on a skateboard on the far side of a hill just to the north of my driveway, just laying there on a skateboard. Any car come over that hill would have went right over her. And last night I was watching the Twins and I heard a car going on the road that had to be going 60 miles an hour. I know it had. We were told when the road was done by a police officer that a trailer would come over, the radar trailer would come over to observe how people are driving. Haven't seen it yet. So, I mean, this is, the neighborhood has enough traffic as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in chambers that wishes to speak to the council at this time? If not, we will move to our online participants. Mr. Wickland, do we have people online? If so, start with your name and address for the record.
We do. I'll have Mr. Cleary go first.
First, last name and address, please.
Hi, actually, it's Rochelle Cleary, Mrs. Cleary, and I am at 3782 Okerstrom Road.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I have three things. The first is I visit Johnson Road often and just have to, I have a dear friend who lives on Johnson Road. I'm a block away and I've also walked to that road, and I would certainly share all the residents' concerns with the narrowness of the road and any increase in traffic on that road being dangerous and just impractical for the people who live there and who have already been assessed to have that road be what it is. My second thing, I live on the substandard Okerstrom Road, which, you know, you said yourself, can't handle more traffic. It's undeniable that this development is going to make more traffic also on Okerstrom Road. People are always looking for the shortcut, and they will find it and they will take it. And I want the city to really consider what that will mean as far as maintenance of this substandard dirt road. The third thing is Keens Creek, which I love, and the wetlands, which are very, very dear to my heart. I am concerned. I know that the developer has taken, and you have taken, some measures to not build on the wetlands. But what we experienced with the development off Hermantown Road, the Keens Creek Lake Arthur Road development, is that the blasting and the runoff caused significant damage to Keens Creek and to our well, which is a secondary thing. So just not building on something doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be protected. And I want to make sure that the city is also really taking steps, and the developer is taking steps to make sure that the creek is protected, not just by not building a road through it, but by making sure that the runoff isn't going through it and that the blasting doesn't disrupt our water table. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present in the online meeting that wishes to speak? If so, please state your name and address for the record.
Mr. Perry, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jake Perry. Me and my wife live on 3779 Johnson Road. We've been here for a little over 2 years now. The kind of point others made before, as a younger family, our son's 9 months old. One of the big reasons that we moved here was because of the feel of the neighborhood, the lack of the through traffic, and the safety of the roads. Like it says on the Hermantown City website, you know, advantages of accessible big city amenities while still allowing for country living and that small town community feel. I think this is a wonderful neighborhood, and it's what kind of embodies what Hermantown is supposed to be. And as you guys have heard kind of throughout this and some of the stuff that's been presented and sent to you guys, that really in a short period of time without a whole lot of notice, or which, you know, isn't really the fault of anyone, that's just how things go, everybody in the community rallied together. They got together, made documents, put flyers out, did the petition. I think that says a lot about the neighborhood itself. And I think that just kind of is a testament to how special it is. And I think that the road and the lack of traffic, it may sound silly, but I think that's a huge part of that. And if this changes or they add that egress into there, I think you're gonna lose that. And I think that would be a shame. I think this is the kind of thing that should be held up as an example of what Hermantown is about. And it would just kind of be horrible to wreck that for everybody and for the town itself. I think it's gonna cause a lot of problems there. It's been talked a lot about the safety issue. And that's really the biggest concern. Kind of the end of the day, it seems to me that the reasons for, and don't get me wrong, like the development change is going to happen. I'm all for the new development, just against the road access, which I think most residents would agree. Well, I mean, we all signed the petition, I guess, but the reasons for not doing that extension seem to far outweigh the reasons for it. Seems to be a net negative benefit for the safety of the residents. So, you know, I'm asking, like most of the others on here, that you guys consider the motion that was made in the previous Planning and Zoning Commission to approve the development, but with a different egress or without that egress onto the road. And if you, hopefully you guys have had a chance to drive down a road and see what everyone is talking about. But yeah, thanks for listening to us, and hopefully you use your power to stop it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone else in the online meeting?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Sam Berg.
Sam?
Yep.
Hi, name and address, please. I think you're muted right now, Jim.
Oh, Jim Samberg.
Get the operator.
We've all been there.
Still have no sound. I won't start the clock until we get some sound.
Obviously.
There we go.
How's that?
There we go, Jim.
Can you hear me now?
Gotcha.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Perfect.
Name and
I had my-
address for the
I
record.
had my tech person work on that for me. So, Jim Samberg, 3789 Johnson Road. Mr. Mayor, Council, I guess I would really like to hear all of you hear what these people are saying in the petition that was handed around. The importance of that, because we all kind of got together to put something together to speak to you people. Seeing as a city council, I think that's really a strong part of your job, is listening to the citizens who live in Hermantown. One thing I'd like to state is the road, the second egress onto Morris Thomas or Okerstrom. I heard this stated by Mr. Johnson. We'd have to work with the county. They don't, this and that. There's things to the Okerstrom Road that could be a problem. Well, there's a lot of problems to go with the Carlson Road to Johnson also. So I would really like you to pursue some of that. I don't think this is any great hurry. Pursue things with whoever you need to for the Okerstrom Road. There's a much better access there, fewer houses on the Okerstrom, and closer to closer to Morris Thomas Road. So I think that would make more sense, or back out onto Morris Thomas Road. I don't know if the county is against it. I just don't think we pursued it hard enough. That's my opinion. Safety wise, I'll second what everybody else says. I disagree with giving safety to a new development and taking safety away from previous residents of Hermantown. We pay taxes here. We just paid for that road. We vote for you. It's very important to us to keep that road the way it was. And to Mr. Weeks and Mr. Zierden, that road was not narrowed. It was 20 feet wide and it stayed 20 feet wide. It just moved. That's all it is. There's a 2-foot shoulder on it now on each side with steeper ditches than they used to be. That's why it seems more narrow. We did not vote to narrow that road. We voted to keep it the same, and the city was good with that. So, and just because we have an easement doesn't mean we have to use it. That development would be a beautiful development. Mr. Zerd and Mr. Weeks, we are not against the development at all. Not one bit. So we just would sooner not have the road. In worst case scenario, I guess I would like to see the trail connecting Johnson to the new trail behind the development. And that's the worst case scenario. Also, I'd like to thank Councillor Housechild for responding to my email. He was the only response I got back, and I appreciate that very much. So on that, I would appreciate all your thought on this. If it has to go back to the drawing board, so be it. But Johnson Road residents, I think, have spoken a pretty strong statement about this, and I hope you would consider that on your vote. So I appreciate your time all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present at the online meeting that wishes to speak to the council? Do we have any hands raised, Joe?
Not right now, but I want to wait a moment just because of people's levels of comfort with technology. But at the moment, nobody with their hand raised.
Anyone at the online meeting that wishes to speak to the council?
And I don't have anyone, Mr. Mayor.
No one. We're going to end the public discussion at this time, but I see Tony has something he'd like us to look at. Yes, questions were there? Or were there comments? Okay, you can give that to the city clerk. We will also have more public discussion under the next motion right after this. But our public discussion is over. No one else wishes to speak on this motion for the planned unit development. We will move back to council members. If there's any comments or any questions that councilors see that they'd like to ask staff. I've got a couple that I noted, but if other people get to them first, that's great. I would also like to compliment everyone that's shown up tonight and everyone that's been present online. I know this is a very emotional topic for you, and I appreciate your courtesy and respect in the way you've presented yourselves. This doesn't always happen at something like this, and I really appreciate this. It goes a lot to show for the makeup of our community. Mr. Geisler, did you have any?
I do also. Those are the questions from Mr. Marino.
Okay, the questions from Mr. Marino is, why is the city pushing the Carlson Road? The developer isn't. What's in it for the city? What does the city gain? As simple as I can answer that from my knowledge and experience with city matters over the years is that developments that go through and have two connections are what's considered best practices for neighborhoods to have separate egress and input. But Mr. Mulder, is there a city staff member you would think could answer these questions?
Well, I'll try to do that if I can do that off the top of my head, is that basically the city's pushing it because, again, because of the thought that the two egresses in and out of neighborhoods, it also then, you know, we had that road platted several years ago. That's exactly what it was there for. No other proposal that I've seen and come through the city fits the comprehensive plan the way this one does. In terms of the types of housing, in terms of, you know, the use of the outlot and the use of the plat and the use of the trail easement that was planned, you know, 30 years ago. So I think, you know, that's kind of the idea is this is kind of the follow-up in terms of implementing the comprehensive plan that was thought about, 25, 30 years ago.
Thank you.
I did have a couple questions if we're ready.
Go right ahead.
I had heard some reference to 39 units. Can you confirm, Mr. Johnson, it's 29, correct?
That is correct. It's 29. It's 21 single-family lots and 8 twin home lots. There'll be 8 units total for that, for a total of 29.
I also heard some differing in road width. I think Mr. Sandberg was right, is that the road wasn't changed in width. It was just replicated what was there. So I think that's right. But Mr. Balf, do you know, is it 20 or is it 22 of bituminous?
Yeah, so the question was the road width on Johnson. So if memory serves me correctly, the pavement width was 20 feet prior to reconstruction. It is 20 feet. That was newly constructed. The difference is we added 2-foot shoulders on each side and we improved the ditches.
And what is the standard for that type of a road in the city?
So the rural standard for the city of Hermantown is a 24-foot wide paved surface with 2-foot gravel shoulders either side for a total width of 28 feet.
Thank you. I'd comment that some of the residents don't feel the ditches were improved, but that's a matter for another time.
I would have a couple comments after the questions.
Okay. And I also noted the same question from Mr. Smith. Why 22 feet? And I believe that the reasons that went into the decision to keep the road where it was were, number one, a petition from a lot of the same people that brought us a petition now. And number two, that the road currently is not centered in the right of way, so that constructing it to city standards, 24 feet, would have negatively impacted what they consider to be their front yard, even though it's within the city's right of way. Is that correct, Mr. Balf?
Yes, that's exactly correct, Mayor. So just to expand on that, when the road was built, there was only 33 feet of right of way. And then when the Valley View plat came into play, that extra 33 feet was dedicated as right of way. So in order to, the recommendation at the time was to center the road in the right of way and make it to our rural standard. After a lot of discussion, when public input, we landed on reconstructing it at its current width and leaving it as close to the center line that was there before and not putting it in the platted center line.
Thank you. Mr. Geisler, do you have any?
Oh, I just had a couple of follow-up comments. And this is not easy for me. I know many of you are my friends. But we do look at this as a big picture for the city. And we listen to what the neighbors say, we listen to what the voters say, but we've got the chief of police, the fire marshal, the public utilities, and the city engineer all telling us that this is a good thing for the city to connect this road through. And that's how I feel about it. And yeah, maybe we can, we'll talk to the police chief about, maybe we can get the radar trailer over there and maybe we can do a few things. I also think that 29 units, the majority of them, in my opinion, are going to go to the Morris Thomas Road. You guys all talked about the curve, and by the time you live there, if you live in the new development and you navigate to the Johnson Road and around, try to get back out onto the Haynes Road, I think at the end of the day, you're going to say, I'm going out to the Morris Thomas Road. So I think I can understand everybody's concern, but I truly believe that the majority of this traffic is going to go to the Morris Thomas Road. And I think what the other people are overthinking or not thinking about is with these two access points is with the utility system, it loops the water, which is a benefit. But the other thing is that sometimes there could be a house fire, an accident at an intersection, and having that second way in is really what that second way in is for. It's not the proximity of the fire station, but it could be a bad accident there. So for me, I'm in favor of the project based on, again, the information that we've received from the police chief, fire marshal, public utilities director, and the city engineer.
Public discussion is over, but there will be public discussion under the next motion. Counselor?
I would just have to say that my notes and questions and comments have pretty much been covered by Mr. Geisler. But it hasn't been, this is not an easy decision or a project. I mean, the project, I believe, is a really good one for the city of Hermantown. Having been raised on the Linda Road, I can truly appreciate the emotions and your thoughts behind this. But for the city and what I believe my responsibilities are, I think for the city itself, the project is a very good one. I do wish we could do the project without the Carlson Road for those living there, but at the same time, it does make most sense, and we've been advised, I think, very wisely from those we depend on.
Counselor Housechild?
Yeah, I also want to take a chance to thank everybody for being here. I think that says a lot about our community. And it's why I chose to live here, because I think we're a small enough community where all of us can kind of get to know one another. I'm a newer resident, along with people like Jake Perry, who spoke earlier, with a young one. So I know where a lot of you are coming from. I will say, when I started getting, this is one of my first meetings. So I'm pretty new on the council, for those of you that might not know. When I started hearing from all of you, I noticed that this was going to be an issue that was of concern to citizens. And so as many of you probably saw, I responded to each and every concern that I heard. I took the time to respond to everybody. And then I started doing my research. I had individual meetings with the city administrator, with the mayor. I brought up questions to our city engineer, to our police chief, to everyone that I could think of that was involved in this project. And we had some really hard questions, very similar to many of the questions that all of you brought up. I mean, I asked, why couldn't we go out to Morris Thomas? Well, the concern is that there will be that is extreme wetlands, that the current outing on Morris
Okerstrom.
And Morris Thomas, yes, you're right. But and Morris Thomas, that the current one is the least wetland impacting, and that a second one would not be approved by or suggested by the county. And then Okerstrom would go through wetlands and is not a suitable road for us to go out on in terms of it being gravel. I think a lot of citizens brought up the concerns about about the going out on Portland and out onto Haynes. I think a lot of people are going to use Morris Thomas, to Councilor Geisler's point. And I think you'll see that, with this development, that the easier outway is through Morris Thomas, not to go through a bunch of neighborhoods. But from a safety standpoint, it's beneficial for us to have that for any situations that could present themselves. The last thing I will say is, I know and I understand that a lot of your kids and grandkids have used those roads for recreation and safety. This development and this new trail that we're going to develop is going to be a whole new thing for so many kids and so many people to be able to recreate on safely without any cars driving on them. So this is a huge benefit. I would love to live in a neighborhood that was building this new trail, because then I would know that my son, who's 50 months old, would someday be able to recreate on a place I know cars aren't driving, and would be connected for miles and miles throughout our community. This trail system is something that we've been pushing for a long time. And I think this is going to be beneficial to a lot of kids in this neighborhood well into the future. So I just want you to know that, I know there was a lot of concerns that this was being pushed, but we have been doing our due diligence, and I've asked a lot of hard questions of a lot of the people involved, because I hear your concerns. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who has been here, and that we're doing our best to listen. So those are my comments.
Thank you. And I wanted to speak to the outlot in the land swap that's going to take place, or is projected to take place. This would swap, what is it, Eric, 2.5 acres? 2.5 for 12.5, but that 12.5 would entail trail construction, and the trail construction that would happen in connection with these lots nearest the Johnson Road looks to me to alleviate all of the pedestrian traffic in the Johnson, Portland, Alexander, and existing Carlson Road area, so that children and people with strollers will not even have to use the road to walk. This will provide them an outlet with no vehicles on it. And that's part of a long-term plan that we have as a city to connect the trail from Keene Creek Park to the intersection of Uggstead and Highway 53 eventually. But the trail connection, there's several different trail connections possible in this area. One would be a connection of sidewalk from Johnson Road into the development that would connect with the trail for people that are south of the proposed Carlson connection. And the other would be the back edge of the people's property north of the proposed Carlson Road that would directly touch the trail that was in the part of the land swap. That's what I wanted to add at this time. Someone did bring up that emergency traffic would come down the Morris Thomas Road from either Haynes Road or from the Stebner Road area. And that is the same type of traffic pattern that most people are going to follow. And with that, do any counselors have any other comment? We will move forward with a roll call vote at this time. Now, remember, we have another motion after this for the plat of the same property.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Housechild,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Next is resolution 2021-79. Resolution approving the preliminary plat of Keene Creek Trail subdivision and imposing conditions on submittal of the final plat. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Housechild, second by Counselor Nelson. Mr. Mulder, should we have Mr. Johnson address this?
Yes.
Eric?
Great, thank you. This is the plat that essentially mirrors the PUD. This will create 29 lots, it'll be 21 single-family lots and 8 twin home lots, once again, for a total of 8 units on those. It'll have a 66-foot right-of-way of a roadway system that will connect Morris Thomas to Johnson Road via the Carlson Road extension. There'll also be 2 outlots associated with this. One is that 12.5 acre lot that we previously had mentioned. The other one is a small outlot that's just north of Morris Thomas, kind of near the bulb, that one cul-de-sac, once again, that has some ponds in that and quite a bit of wetlands in that area. That's the extent of the plat.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from council? Hearing none, we will move on to public input from those present in the city council chambers. We will get to those online after the council chambers has exhausted its public input. If anyone wishes to speak to this item, please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Sam Clark, 4337 Levake Road. Mayor, councilors. I would just like to say I'm also a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And when this was presented to us, I thought that the professional and the organized approach from the residents of Johnson and Portland Road was quite impressive. We don't typically see that. I'd also like to just to make note that from my opinion at the planning and zoning meeting, that really the issue was not the plan unit development, but it is the narrowness of Johnson Road and Portland Road compared to a typical road. And so it's not necessarily traffic per se that would be the issue. It's not necessarily connecting to the road per se. It's that the road is substantially undersized for the area. And I would just also like to note that in the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, we did have a motion to approve the planned unit development with the exception of the Carlson Road addition. And that was actually there was 3 for and 3 against, with Mr. Geisler being the tiebreaker to bring it to council. So there was consideration by the Planning and Zoning Commission to consider this, not necessarily stop any connection onto Johnson Road, whether it be a trail or a path or anything of that sort. I guess that's more my point for this agenda item, that it wasn't really the plan unit development that was an issue. It was more the plat itself and maybe a possibility of something different with the Carlson Road connection itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present in chambers that wishes to speak to the council at this time?
Tony Marino, 3760 Johnson Road. I basically have 3 points. One of them is in regards to my question, why is the city pushing this so hard? And I've been told at this meeting that all of our department heads have said it's beneficial. Well, I believe it's also beneficial for the department heads to side with the city. So that's one point. Another point is, we have this opportunity to build a trail. Use the easement and connect the trail. Make it 10 foot wide like they usually are. And in an emergency, bad crash out on the Morris Thomas Road, whatever you want to come up with, there would be access. That's what the Lake Walk does. The Lake Walk down in Duluth, they can use it for emergency access. Also, it was brought up, Mr. Mayor, by yourself about the traffic patterns, mostly Morris Thomas Road. I agree with that going outwards. But if you look at our city and the Duluth and everything north, I can name, in fact, a map submitted by Jake Perry shows all these major businesses, everything from Sam's Club, Fleet Farm, Walmart, Menards, Costco. You can go over to Home Depot and everything in between. Those are all north. They're north of the Johnson Road, Portland Road. And when they're coming back in, it's not an obstacle to take a right on Portland Road and drive through our neighborhood to get to the Carlson Road that you're proposing. If that road, that Keene Creek Court, is capped off with a cul-de-sac at the end for turnaround for plows and garbage trucks and stuff, and maybe include the Munger Spur Trail instead of it being up in the sewer line, which is definitely wetlands, and put the trail in there. And now you've got an emergency access, and it really improves the Johnson, Portland, Alexander Road residents. The trail itself isn't going to be a big benefit to 5 to 10-year-old kids that go up and play in front of the road. It's not the same as teenagers that can get off on their bikes and get down on that trail and travel up north to the Maple Grove Road or down the thing. The Johnson Road is used by the young kids. That other trail, that's a whole different ballgame, and it doesn't benefit the youngsters that like to use it. So those are my points.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to speak at this time?
Hi again.
Name and
Mayor,
address
Lisa
again,
Smith.
please.
Lisa Smith, 3761 Johnson Road. Just a couple of questions and comments. On the Hermantown Neighbors Facebook page, one of the comments that a resident made was, have you thought about a narrower path through there, what the proposed Carlson Road would be, that would allow for emergency vehicles to get through if they needed it, rather than the wide road with the sidewalk, which really isn't beneficial to the Johnson Portland Road residents at all. So that's something to consider in terms of the plat. That would solve all the problems, right? All of that extra traffic wouldn't be coming on Johnson Road, and yet the access would be there if emergency vehicles needed it. So that's a thought. I'm wondering if the police chief and fire marshal have been shown copies of this proposed development and plat as it is proposed. I'm wondering if they've seen it, because the preference, of course, if they're all saying, yeah, it's our preference that we would always want to ingress and egress. That's great, and it seems to make sense. But I wonder if they've seen it and if they would agree that that would be safer and even feasible You know what I mean? I wonder if they would agree, if they looked at the plat and the development, that that would be the best way to go about it. It's easy to say it in theory, but in practice, it's something completely different. And I just don't think that they would agree that it would be safer to go in that way. So I guess those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else in chambers that wishes to speak to the council at this time? It doesn't appear we have anyone in chambers that wishes to speak to us. Is there anyone present at the online meeting that wishes to speak to us? Oh, we
We
got
do, Mr. Mayor, but I also see Stephen in the back, so
Steve's coming up.
I'll go to Mr. Perry after Stephen.
Okay, we'll wait for Steve. It's a formality, but could you just start with your name and address?
Certainly, Steve Lepala, LEPP, 2 A's, 4749 Portland Road. And I'd just like to repeat what I kind of leaked in the first motion, that if the Johnson Road easement is allowed, that it be narrower than 25 feet to kind of precondition the people that exit that road through mercifully. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Mr. Wickland, we have someone ready online who wishes to speak.
Yep, I'll open it up for Mr. Perry.
Hi, Joe, are you able to bring up that map that I sent in at all?
Yeah, from your letter, Mr. Perry?
Yes, please.
I believe this is it.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Is it, see, I see half of it. I don't see the other half, but I don't know if it cut off or what, but that's the main part. The other one was just zoomed out, but I guess the kind of the discussion about where the traffic would go, that was brought up before. I guess I asked you guys, the city council, mayor, if you can take a look at that map that was sent or look at what Joe's bringing up there. And I asked you to consider if you were a resident that was going north, or especially as Tony said, coming back from northbound, which would be, you know, where Walmart, Target, Best Buy, Super One, Mall, Sam's Club, Fleet Farm, you know, all those places, as you guys know, are up there. Which way are you going to take? You're going to, coming back, certainly you're going to turn on Portland and go that way. I think somebody commented earlier, people are always looking for a shortcut, and that's not even just a shortcut. I think that's clearly the path that's going to be taken for a majority of the residents in that neighborhood. So I think that's something important there. It was commented before, you know, the access to the trail and how that'll be a big benefit for the neighborhood, but I just wanted to comment that to reach that trail, you're still going to have to walk down the road, which is going to be undersized for the amount of traffic, and it's going to be a safety hazard. I mean, especially with the very steep ditches and all that, and the width there, the increased traffic, it's not going to be safe to walk there. So then you're driving to utilize that trail, and at that point you can go anywhere. It doesn't really offer a whole lot of benefit there. And I'd like to second the point that was brought up by Tony and I think someone else as well, that adding trail access through that easement would allow the benefit of everyone else in our area getting access to these trails and everything over there. While also, if made large enough like the boardwalk, you could still get emergency vehicles in there. And I guess lastly, I would say that talking about this two means of egress as the preferred method, I think there's a reason that it's a preferred method and not a required method, is that you have to take into consideration each use or development that you're looking at. And I think in this instance, it's pretty clear that there's going to be a safety impact to our community on a daily basis. And the second form of egress, you know, could be used in a emergency case, but I don't believe there'll be a large amount of trees in the new development. All the utilities and stuff, I believe, are going to be buried. So the need for that second egress would be a pretty fringe case, and I think that can be accomplished by a trail if needed and made large enough. Thank you for listening. That's all I had.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online that wishes to comment? Is there anyone present at the online meeting that wishes to comment on resolution 2021-79?
Mr. Mayor, I'll have Mr. Sandberg speak again.
Mayor and council, and especially Mr. Mayor, I heard you say best practices was to have 2 egresses. I was wondering where this best practice sits at Peyton Acres.
Thank you.
I guess that's not all I have to say, but I'm just guessing I'm just asking the question.
Earlier, we said that we would try and write down questions as they were brought up and answer them at the end of discussion.
Okay. And number 2 questions, knowing of Country Acres and the councilman that lives on there, here's just a question. No, you don't have to answer. Have you had any major catastrophes or emergencies that have blocked your access out? Just a question. And my third point is I'm extremely disappointed in the council and the mayor's vote on this. Who is the community of Hermantown? Is it the citizens who live there or the future citizens? You voted for the future citizens we don't even have yet. And you voted against the citizens that are there. This just tells me that our council and mayor isn't listening to our citizens. I'm sorry it's that way, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I'll ask Susan McGuire to go next.
Hi, I'm Susan McGuire. I'm at 3770 Okerstrom Road. My family and I have 776 feet of property that are going to be along this proposed trail. And I'd like to pose a question to the city council of when does the city plan to notify us whether or not you're going to be claiming some of our land as part of this trail and how much it will be. We'd like to know sooner rather than right before you plan to do this. Also, I'd like to ask you about where the city is planning parking and other services for people along this trail. I think it should be a nice benefit, but I don't see that along the current trail except at the soccer fields and down at King Creek Park. That's all.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present in the online meeting that would like to speak to council at this time?
I'd like to open it up for Nick to unmute himself.
Hi, I'm Joel Hops. I live at 3785 Johnson Road. I know this is your question time, but I work in law enforcement. I live on the road. I actually work for the city of Duluth, and I've kind of listened to some of the bantering back and forth about the road design and things like that. I drive this road every day, and I'm not, like I say, I work for the city of Duluth, not the city of Hermantown. I drive into Duluth every day. Our road is a narrow road, just like some of the city of Duluth roads. The new road that you're gonna build, obviously it's gonna be Hermantown that will be coming if we ever have a fire or anything like that. They won't be driving and accessing our road. They'll be using the road off of Morris Thomas. Where you guys are gonna increase traffic is where people come out here and they take a right, where they come down from our businesses in Duluth and then go home to Hermantown, which our road, as you said before, the schematics were designed back in the day. I think if you said 25 or 30 years ago, when the easements were put into place. When this road just got redeveloped, it's still at that standards where there is now more houses around. You're going to put more traffic. There's more garbage trucks. There's more cement trucks that drive down here. On Friday morning, when I drive out of my driveway and go to work to go through Hermantown to Duluth, it is a one-way road with all the trash cans. Our city law enforcement, meaning Hermantown, is not going to drive that road because of safety concerns. It's too narrow. You're going to add extra traffic coming from a development on this, and we're going to have more problems. I understand and like your theory of instead of a one-way in and a one-way out road, but the problem is we're in a unique corner demographically that we are close to the fire hall, which is very nice, but Duluth isn't going to come and support Hermantown. Hermantown's support for police is coming from Proctor or Hermantown itself. Duluth never travels this unless it's in a big emergency. And at that point, our road is still too small to support that. So my question to you is, why do we want to increase the traffic on a small road? Because we have the same problem in Duluth. It's old infrastructure and it doesn't support new buildings. And that's just my question to you. And I thank you for the time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the online meeting that wishes to speak to the council at this time?
I will unmute Jennifer Pilon.
Hello, this is Jennifer Pilon and I live at 3749 Johnson Road. I'm just going to say that I'm disappointed in the council's decision, and mainly because all the arguments that I've heard on the city or developer's behalf have not been backed up with data. I really like how Jake Perry brought in the whole idea of how often are there actually going to be emergency vehicles needing to use the road versus us walking the roads every day and our safety being decreased on a daily basis. This whole thing, I think, is being really supported, except for the road. And I just don't feel there was any data or proof given, instead of just, word of mouth and who they said these things, but not backed up with data. So I think in the future, when the city is going to choose to go against 100% vote of the local residents who are getting a net negative benefit, I really think it would be important that the city would have good data to back up their decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the online meeting that wishes to speak to the council?
I do not see any hands, Mr. Mayor.
No hands raised, no input. We will close the public input for council questions and discussions. I noted a couple of questions, two from Lisa Smith. Mr. Mulder, have the department heads been shown copies of this map and of the resolution?
I can't speak to the fire marshal, Eric, fire chief. Eric, you talked to both.
Yes, weeks ago, I sent this to numerous parties, the county engineer, city engineer. Yeah, I sent copies of this plat to them as well. The fire chief, the police chief, as I mentioned, the county engineer, the county surveyors department, the school district. So send it to all those parties as part of it.
So there were complete copies of the plat.
That is correct. They've seen an actual plan of this development.
Thank you. And the other question she had is, have you thought about a narrow path? Do we have an answer for that, Mr. Mulder?
Given that this is the preliminary plat, at this point, we've looked at just, the road standard, which has been widely criticized of not being used on Johnson Road.
Okay.
So, but at this point, in the preliminary plat, we are just looking at the road standard. That's not to say that we couldn't do something in the final plat, but right now we're using the city standard which people have advocated that we should use for roads.
So there is time to alter the plat and the configuration of the road prior to the next time it's brought to council.
Yeah, so right now we're in the preliminary stages of that.
Thank you. Mr. Sandberg asked, what is best practices, and mentioned country acres and other things. Do we have any member of staff that can address the best practices and how these things are decided and why some of the roads in Hermantown have cul-de-sacs and some don't? Mr. Mulder, would you moderate?
Well, just speak to Peyton Acres, is that Peyton Acres currently is in the process of being developed, and it's in its first phase. That actually is, right now is a dead end road. But that projection over a number of years is for it to go in and then ultimately connect with Oak Ridge Drive. So that is in the planning stages. The other question was specifically to Country Acres, and his question was specifically to, has there ever been an emergency? I can't speak to that, but I do know that neighborhood was blocked off for at least some time during the sewer construction process 4 or 5 years ago. In terms of best practices, the standard would be is that you want to have to minimize cul-de-sacs as much as you can. Now, certainly there are plenty of them, and there are some places that have them in Hermantown, but we've tried to minimize those as we can. And we've also tried to minimize those when there are a number of homes on them. So in this case, there are 29 homes, and several years ago, we went through Jackson Estates and said that was all going to be, all of those homes are in one. And we told the developer, no, you've got to start back out on Uggstead and work your way back in, so that there were, again, there are some shorter cul-de-sacs in that with maybe 3, 4, 5 homes, but not 29. But when they were getting up into that 40 number, we said you had to come back out. So again, cul-de-sacs are good sometimes, but you want to be careful that you don't have a large number of homes back there. It's like 3 or 4, 5, maybe, but not 29.
And I'll speak to a couple of things from experience, and that is the Timber Ridge development. The Timber Ridge development started out as a residential development that would have been off the end of Woodridge Drive with residential homes leading into 3 or 4 apartment buildings. And the neighborhood got together and opposed that, and the council at the time listened to them and shut off all access, which resulted in access coming off of the Westburg Road and now off of formerly Mall Drive, Market Street, and several apartment buildings that have been built that put a lot of stress on our city services. But the desire of planning and zoning at the time was to connect those roads to minimize cul-de-sacs. And another one is the connection of Falcon and Eagle off of Uggstead Road to Kingswood Lane and Rebecca Road on Arrowhead. Similar neighborhood opposition came forth when that was proposed. Kingswood and Rebecca are older streets. Falcon was constructed off of the Uggstead Road, but it was desired to construct Eagle that would connect Kingswood with Falcon. There were fears of the residents at the time that students to and from the high school would be speeding down the road, that it would cause the same type of problems that are envisioned by residents of the Johnson Road area at this time. And the council at that time went ahead and went through with that connection, and none of those fears have come to light in the previous, I want to say 20 years since that was connected. That is what best practices is and how it works at its best. Now, we on the council all consider and we all we all feel for the residents and their fears about possible traffic problems in the future. But we are addressing that through our action tonight. I'm looking for, when will the city claim the land for the trail along Susan McGuire's property at 3770 Okerstrom Road?
There currently is a 20-foot easement that is in place across the back of those properties on Johnson. We have not started any planning process to actually do construction at this point. But we would try to work within that 20-foot access, and we would not be looking at acquiring additional easements.
So, and parking for the trail. I know the trail plan is a long-term plan and it's in flux right now, but can I ask Mr. Johnson if there are parking areas planned along the eventual trail after completion?
Right now, there's a number of trailheads through this, in this section of the city, obviously Keene Creek and Stebner. If and when the Ingwalls property ever redevelops, there might be the opportunity for a trailhead there as well. And then obviously, as we keep moving this way, facilities like here at City Hall, the Wellness Center, the school, et cetera, those are other projected trailheads where there'll be parking, more wayfinding signs, potential restrooms, et cetera.
Thank you. So it would be the city's intention to work with developers along the trail in the future to try and facilitate parking? As example, the old Engwall site?
Yes, exactly. Where we've got that ability to work with them, we definitely will.
Thank you. Councilor Geisler, do you have anything?
Just a couple comments about I live in Country Acres and it is one way in, one way out. I don't know of any, I've been there close to 30 years. I don't know of any incidents where there have been a fire truck or something that couldn't get through, other than the construction that Mr. Mulder talked about. The road was actually shut down for a while. We had to make other arrangements for the day, but it was rather short term, but I do not know of any emergency situations. I do know that the road is platted with a 66-foot easement all the way to the west to the 80 acres that goes all the way to the Uggstead Road. So when that developer wants to develop the next 80 acres between Country Acres and the Uggstead Road, there's a 66-foot wide right of way that I imagine come that day, my neighbors are all going to be wanting to know how we could not do that. But similarly, the road was platted and that's sitting there waiting to happen. So there are other instances where that's happened and occurred. I think the mayor brought up some good points of over at Falcon and Eagle, knowing that how that really has connected those neighborhoods together and kind of work cohesively. So otherwise, I think, I guess my only other thought is that this 66-foot wide, we talked about a lot of cul-de-sac type situations, even Patriot Drive. I think that's a nice development. And I guess had there been a 66-foot wide right of way at the end of that, we would have probably wanted that connection to occur there. Just this, because this was platted there, 1994 or 5, it's been sitting there vacant. I think now's the time to use it and make the new development a safer place. So.
Thank you. Councilor Nelson?
I have nothing to add.
Councilor Housechild?
I don't think I have anything else.
Okay, we are ready for a roll call vote.
Counselor Housechild,
Aye.
Geisler,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Next on our agenda is Resolution 2021-80, resolution approving pay request number 3 for road improvement district number 537, Levake Junction Road to Yulin Brothers Incorporated in the amount of $275,049.98.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Geisler, second by Councilor Nelson. Mr. Mulder?
So this is the work that continues along Levake Junction Road. This is the third payment.
Thank you. We'll give a couple of seconds till chamber's empty. Any questions or comments from council?
No.
Is there any public input on this matter? Is there anyone present in the chambers that wishes to speak to resolution 2021-80? If anyone wishes to speak, please step forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Do we have anyone present at the online meeting that wishes to speak to this matter?
Mr. Mayor, I do not see any hands for 2021-80.
Thank you. One last opportunity for members of the online meeting to speak to 2021-80. With no public input, I'd ask for a roll call.
Counselor Nelson,
Aye.
Geisler,
Aye.
Housechild,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2021-81, resolution approving final pay request for Old Highway 2 to Senate Contracting LLC in the amount of $15,700.25.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Counselor Nelson, second by Counselor Geisler. Mr. Mulder?
This is the final pay request for that project. We did have that one change order that you approved, so it was slightly over the original bid amount, but it was under what we had originally budgeted. And this project now is complete. We'll just wait for the documentation from the contractor that everybody's been paid.
So there still will be one more pay request? or-
No.
No, this is the last one. But we have to wait for some paperwork before we'll actually give them the check.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Hearing none, is there any member of the public in chambers that wishes to comment on this matter? Any public comment on resolution 2021-81 in chambers? Is there anyone present at the online meeting that wishes to comment on this matter? If so, state your name and address for the record.
Mr. Mayor, I do not see any hands for 2021-81.
Thank you. One last opportunity for comment on 2021-81. With no public comment, I'd ask for a roll call.
Counselor Geisler,
Aye.
Housechild,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2021-82. Resolution approving change order number 1 for Keene Creek Park Trail.
Approve.
Second.
Motion to
Motion by Counselor Housechild, second by Counselor Geisler. Mr. Mulder?
This is for the King Creek Trail. We've had to remove some additional bad soils and replace those. We've also had to clean up the septic tank and drain field that was there. And then we also changed the contract date, and we will actually be doing the paving in August in conjunction with St. Louis County's work on Morris Thomas.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Is there any public input on this matter and from anyone in chambers? Any public input from anyone in chambers? Is there any public input on this matter from anyone present in the online meeting?
Mr. Mayor, I do not see any hands for 2021-82.
Thank you. One last chance for comment for the online meeting on 2021-82. With no public comment, we should have a roll call.
Counselor Housechild,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Geisler,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2021-83, resolution approving pay request number 12 for sewer improvement district number 48 to Utility Systems of America Incorporated in the amount of $278,948.17.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Nelson, second by Counselor Housechild. Mr. Mulder?
So this is the next pay request for the sewer trunk line through section 24 and the trail work as well.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council?
I just have a question regarding kind of wrap up of the trail, opening for use, and, call it a soft opening, and then what are our plans moving forward with a ribbon cutting type of a
So
pomp and circumstance?
Joe is working on a ribbon cutting ceremony. He can speak to this if he wants, sometime probably in August. we will kind of work with the contractor in terms of a soft opening, but we really want to make sure that they've got all of their equipment and supplies and any
I've
material
driven
out.
by and was going to walk it in the evening. There are no signs that say you can't use it. Is there discouraging? Are we discouraging it, or can we tell people to use it, or?
I don't know what the status is on, I would be a little bit hesitant to encourage right now, just because in terms of just kind of some of the cleanup and how much work the contractor may have to do there yet. I know there were some questions about cleaning up on some of the shouldering of the trail. So, but I would not encourage people to use it yet, but we can try to get a better status of that and let people know.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Thank you.
And Mr. Geisler, this is Joe. The hope is late August with plenty of time to advertise a fun opening and ribbon cutting. We want to give it a little bit of time to green up, as well as some coordination around some opening school events and also some signage that we have to order in order, not just for wayfinding signs, but to brand the trail as well, that we're hoping to nail down in advance of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any comment from the public in chambers on this matter? If anyone in the chambers has a comment, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone present at the online meeting that wishes to comment on this resolution?
Mr. Mayor, regarding resolution 2021-83, I do not see any hands raised.
Thank you. One last chance for comment on 2021-83 from the online meeting. With no public comment, could we have a roll call?
Counselor Nelson.
Aye.
Geisler.
Aye.
Housechild.
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. And item number 13, lucky 13, we have a recess. Is there a motion for recess?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Housechild, second by Counselor Nelson. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Anybody want to stay?
I might wait a little while. Unless I walk out with Grace.